Welcome, everybody. India is on the moon. Okay. All right. That's enough of that. Right. Well, so we find out today. Well, I found out today. I wasn't up on it, I guess. India is on the moon. Let's give some more light to this situation here. There we go. What do you think about that? Ben Davis at Cauldron Pool had a nice meme for that. If I can find it right fast, I'll show that to you. So the BRICS nations, we're going to talk about that. Let me just introduce you to what we're going to talk about today. Give you the outline, and we'll get to Ben Davis's tweet in a minute. Because of that clear and obvious footage showing us that India's on the moon. Because the media is trustworthy, we can trust them on everything, right? Well, today, coming up, we're going to look at a few headlines, a little bit of the Trump stuff that happened last week, some funny stuff, some interesting stuff. A lot of the stuff that comes out about Trump today is funny, except for the fact that it appears, if the media narrative is correct, that one political party is attacking another, but not in ways we've seen here before. Looks like we look like a banana republic. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll look at a couple or three really good examples of why you cannot trust the media. In fact, it's dangerous to listen to what they say. Look at those. The BRICS nations, because India is in the news with this apparent moon landing, and their track team is now the elite on the planet. So, of course, this means that there's a new kid in town. A new family on the block, if you will. The BRICS block of nations. What is the BRICS block of nations, and how does that, how is it relevant? China is rewriting the Bible, making Jesus out to be a sinner. I don't think we're surprised about that, and of course, as you can see, our main topic today, Lockdown 2.0. Apparently it's coming. Everyone's getting ready, but it seems like a little too obvious to me. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, one of our viewers, our brother Joe Powell, had a question a few weeks ago about Neil deGrasse Tyson that I never got around to answering, and we'll answer that today. The time recently where he was talking about every day when we wake up, we just decide what gender we want to be, or something like that. The fact that gender exists on some kind of a spectrum. We'll listen to his comments, and then I'm going to let a former transgender person react to his comments to show you how ridiculous that is. Yeah, so anyway, India's on the moon. That's one thing. Bob Barker is no longer with us. Very sad. Bob Barker has died at 99, and the tributes pour in. Of course, Lockdown 2.0 news, thanks to Summer for this message here at the last moment here to get this in. School districts in Kentucky and Texas are canceling classes because of surge of illnesses, including the big C-19, apparently. Because we can trust what they're telling us. Just weeks into the new school year, districts in multiple states are canceling in-person classes for several weeks due to respiratory viruses, as they say across the pond, respiratory. Among students and staff, 2 school districts in Kentucky, Lee County, and Magaffin County schools said they were closing due to widespread illness. Now, that wouldn't be that, I don't know that would be that necessarily newsworthy. It happens that sometimes because kids are packed in together and it's the first of the year and everyone's immune systems have been blown out. So you might expect kids to get sick, but how much of this is fear mongering? All right. So those are our topics today. That's our vector, Victor. Let's look at a couple of things here. Ian Miles Chang, I think it's Chang. I'm not sure. You can decide for yourself. He's got a very good Twitter feed. And I had a couple things for you. This right here, I wanted to show you this. Check this out. This is what happens in Las Vegas. And I think this might be tribal police. I'm not sure. We'll see on the side of this van here, but it could be tribal police. But this is what happens to these indignant climate protesters who shut down a highway in Las Vegas, or let's just say in Nevada. I'm not sure where in Nevada, but it's in Nevada. Oh, that's a Ranger. Uh-oh, there we go. Out of here. All right. Had it. They've had it up to here.
Get out now! Get out! On the ground! On the ground now! Get on the ground!
Okay, I think that's a so that's a taser he's got there. So he's not coming out with lethal force. He does have his Bermuda shorts on. That makes him a little less threatening to look at, but still, he's that's stun gun there. It's painful. I don't know if it's painful or not. I'm sure it is. It looks painful. I've never felt it. But look at this. These people just set up in the middle of the road like their movement, their purpose is utmost. In fact, their purpose is so important that it doesn't matter. You were taking your grandmother to the emergency room because she was having shortness of breath or what, and you're stuck in this line of traffic, and these idiots are sitting in the middle of the road for climate change awareness. So it's hard to blame this reaction. Maybe a little over the top, but after a while, what do you expect? How do you expect people to respond?
Don't move!
Oh, the cries of pain and anguish from the middle of the highway there. That's the cost of civil disobedience. If you really believe in your cause, you're willing to take that, right? But as you can see, all of her compadres here are very quick to help her out. They're just right on top of the situation to help her out. No, they're going to make sure that this gets on film. So there you go. Busting through. One more time. Where's the kaboom? There it is. Yeah, did you get that? Because that's what's important. This guy's mad. He's had it. No, okay. So, in all honesty, there's a line of traffic there, a long line of traffic, and it's 120 degrees with zero humidity. Whether you're in a crisis and trying to get somewhere or not, just sitting out there for a period of time, sitting still in the desert is dangerous. And these people and their climate change. And that's not even really strong commitment to it, right? Where were your backups? Like when this person is arrested, if you're going to run a real protest, right? If one person's getting arrested, these other people, if they really love their cause, should be following in behind and just making it more difficult for the arrest. But no, they're just going to sit there. They're going to sit there and watch and film. Because the protest really takes place in the hyper real world. It takes place in social media. It takes place on your screens, right? All right, there's that. So, of course, Trump was arrested last week. I thought I'd play this little clip for you because I thought it was funny.
Well, they took my mugshot. It's a big, beautiful mugshot. Look at it. I call it the Mona Lisa of mugshots. It's incredible. Look at that. It's like my phone calls. It's a perfect mugshot. So perfect and so beautiful. Many people say that they have a good side and a bad side. I only have one side. It's called my great side. They got my great side with this mugshot. It's a beautiful picture of a very handsome guy with wonderful hair. Such a beautiful mugshot that Hunter Biden may want to paint a picture of it and sell it for a lot of money to Russia, or China, or even Ukraine. You know about it. Such a perfect, beautiful, highly respected mugshot. The greatest mugshot in the history of the world, believe me.
It's a highly respected mugshot. All right, so that is...
well, they took my mugshot.
Okay, man.
Well,
let's hold it right there. Yeah, so this is... I forgot his name. Captain Deplorable. That's who it is. Captain Deplorable. You can find Captain Deplorable at CaptainDeplorable45.com if you want to check out Captain Deplorable. So that was fun. Also, the day that Trump was arrested, this is...
So I was watching...
Let's hold him for next. Let's go here first.
Which one are you in, though?
So this is in Fulton County.
Donald Trump. I'm talking about they got everybody. Look at that fucked up. I'll see.
And then here comes the M-Rap too. Wow. I think you call that rolling deep. I think that's what the kids call it. Anyway, does it look like that the people hate this man? You make up your mind about him yourself. This is interesting. I think this is fascinating. Listen to this guy right here. He's got an opinion about this too.
So I was watching these Trump videos of him getting arrested in Atlanta, and wow, it's very interesting what's going on. One thing I wanted to point out is that the hood is waking up. And what I mean by that is the lower income blacks that the Democratic establishment has been holding on to, even they're starting to see through the bull crap. And it's very evident. I'm about to show you some videos here in a second of Trump rolling through the hood in Atlanta. I used to live in Atlanta for a majority of my life, grew up there. One of the reasons I left and came out to the country is because of how these liberal cities are ran. Atlanta has gone downhill bad in the past 10 years.
All right, so that from someone who used to live inside the perimeter. Isn't that right, Summer? Inside the perimeter. Moved outside the perimeter because it's too wonky inside the perimeter now. So there's that. Oh, by the way, there's another one here that Ian Chong has here. There was he's got a video of, man, did I lose it? Of more transgender stuff. That's just, I mean, this is our world, right? This is craziness. Do you see a man or a woman in these pictures? Your answer will reveal the kind of person you really are, says Ian Miles. But he's got it. Also, Alice Cooper's been dropped by his makeup brand. Alice Cooper, who has probably kept the makeup industry in business, has been dropped by Vampire Cosmetics after the singer made several anti-trans comments in an interview earlier this week. It says here, in light of, what if I can get that up there? In light of recent statements by Alice Cooper, we will no longer be doing a makeup collaboration. We stand with all members of the alphabet community and believe everyone should have access to health care. What? Again, it's just a war on common sense. The claim that we believe everyone should have access to health care. Who said you can't get health care? We think it's barbaric and evil to do surgery on minors. No one believes we should not. No one's here saying that no one should have access to health care. Oh, by the way, with the where was it? On the Trump stuff again. There was one more here. Yeah, here's Mike Pence. Seems to be disconnected from reality and
I remain
confident to a shocking degree. Listen to this.
I remain confident, more confident after Wednesday night, that the Republican nominee will not be the former president, that we're going to give the American people a standard bearer for the GOP that's going to be able to lead us to victory against Joe Biden. I remain confident.
I don't know what he's thinking. That lineup at the Republican debate was embarrassing. I mean, it was cringeworthy. I mean, that's not on our agenda today, but it was cringeworthy. Listen to Vivek here. I thought this was a very interesting, a very well-made comparison here. Listen to this. Because listen, what Vivek Ramaswamy is saying, everything he's saying, I think I agree with, and I think most of us would agree with, but something's not right. Check this out.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage? I'll tell you, I'm not a politician.
Of a mill worker's son who dares to defy the odds. The hope of a skinny kid with a funny name who believes that America has a place for him too.
Yeah.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage? I'll tell you, I'm not a politician.
Of a mill worker's son who dares to defy the odds. The hope of a skinny kid with a funny name who believes that America has a place for him too.
Mm-hmm. What about that? A little bit scary, right? A little bit scary. Fannie Willis is the one who brought charges against Trump. And she indicted everybody. Do I have that clip here too? She indicted everybody. Listen to this list of people she's indicted.
Specifically, the indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, John Charles Eastman,
who?
Mark Randall Meadows,
Mark Meadows,
John Cheeseborough, Jeff
Cheeseborough,
Clark,
John Cheeseborough, John Cheeseburger,
Jenna Lynn Ellis.
He's brought charges against Jenna Ellis. She's one of the attorneys that was on for the Grace Community Church in Southern California. Just everybody. Let's indict everybody.
Ray Stallings Smith III, Robert David Cheeley, Michael A. Roman, David James Schaefer, Sean Micah Treasure Steele, Stephen Cliffgard Lee, Harrison William Prescott Floyd, Travion C. Cootie.
What? Come on, that's not a real name. Mr. Cootie, to the office, please. So anyway, this is what our news cycle's been like for a few days, for a couple years now, I guess, really. Some of the best memes from Trump's arrest. Right, so this is what Trump put out that was on his Truth Media. What's it called? Truth Social, yeah. Here's another one, yeah. Look at that handsome guy. The face he makes when he wants cuddles. More, yeah, how about that? In the trans world. Oh, man. I didn't know that was there. When I'm craving a Chick-fil-A, but I realize it's Sunday. All right, let's get out of there. Okay, now, so there's the general headlines for the past couple days. Since we weren't with you on Friday, like we said we would be. We wanted to come in here early on a Monday and get a morning show in for you. So now I've got a couple or three examples of why. Obviously, if you're watching this channel, you already know you just can't trust the media. You can't trust anything they say. And you would think that you could at least trust the weather guy, right? Why would they possibly lie about the weather? Surely, at least the weatherman we can trust, right? He's only going to get it right about 40% of the time, but he's not going to come up there and just lie to us, right? Well, maybe they will. Here's a piece. I don't think you can see that. This is from CNN, August 10th, 2023, after the Maui fires had been burning for a couple days. And you can see over here on the left a little rundown of what they've covered. At least 36 people at this point had been killed or were known to be dead. Much of Lahaina, blah, 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 on down here. But look at this one that's highlighted. Check this out. They're saying here, most of the fires on Maui, fueled in part by violent winds from Hurricane Dora, churning more than 800 miles away, have not yet been contained. So this is CNN reporting that this hurricane that you see there, and you can see the Hawaiian Islands up here in the middle of that graphic, and that this hurricane was fanning the flames. Is that in any way possible? Again, this is CNN. These are the people that are supposed, they claim to be there to report the facts. We'll report and you decide, right? No, that's not how it is. So again, we played this on the show the other night where Jim Lee here, Climate Viewer, was talking about, and you can see here the way the winds blow, the way the winds are blowing. There's a massive high pressure dome up above the Hawaiian Islands. Here you can see the track of the Hurricane Dora. And then you can see above the islands, the Hawaiian Islands, you can see there, it's easier to see on this picture. There are the islands right in the middle, and you can see this high pressure dome. That would be fair weather, pleasant weather. It would be sunny, no clouds in here. So you've got a high pressure region here, okay? And then below the islands, you've got an extreme low pressure right down there. So if you can imagine when you open up a bottle, carbonated drink, or just anything that's under pressure, you hear that. Let go, because the high pressure wants to move to the low pressure. It wants to equalize, right? So the reason the winds were blowing in the direction they were blowing in the Hawaiian Islands is because they were blowing from the high pressure to the low pressure. It was causing the winds to move that direction, trying to equalize the pressure. So the hurricane, other than the fact that there was a low pressure, an area of low pressure south of the islands, The hurricane had no effect whatsoever on the weather conditions there in Hawaii, other than the fact that this high pressure, there was this high pressure dome here that really affected the weather. In fact, it caused the wind, and it caused the lee side of the islands to be extremely warm and dry, which is where fire occurred. All the conditions were right. So, if we're going to be talking about weather modification at all, right there, that's what you need to focus on. Why is that sitting there like that for days? It sat there for an unusual amount of time is the point. Again, check out Jim Lee over at Climate Viewer on the YouTube channel, climateviewer.com, to learn everything you would want to know and then some about these kinds of issues. So there's that. You just can't trust what they say. I know that's not news to you, but sometimes it's good to point out some of the things that they're saying that are silly. Again, right here, check this out. Who was this? The CDC, actually. You can't even trust them. They have reported people who have been wearing cloth masks, to protect their lungs and their passages from smoke particles. The CDC says, you shouldn't use those because these cloth masks are not going to stop smoke particles. The smoke particles are too small. They'll get right through the cloth mask. Funny that 10 microns? I don't know if I'm reading that right, but we're going to use the term micron here, because it's what you're going to see here is that a coronavirus virus is 100 times smaller. Right? You can see that would be the smoke there particle is 10 microns. And the coronavirus particle there is 0.1. So that would mean 100 times. It would take, am I getting that right? So it would take 10 of those to get to one. Well, it's 10 times. No, it's 100 times, because it would take 10 of those to get to one. Yeah, it's 100 times smaller. 100 times smaller. And CDC is saying, hey, you got to watch out because those smoke particles will go right through. But you need to wear that mask because it's going to protect you from viruses. We're living in a clown world, my friends. It's a clown world. Yeah. And here, mask study published by the NIH suggests that in 95, boy, I better be careful here. We're beginning working off that strike now for the next, for 90 days, probably got about 75 days left on that. I need to be careful here. But anyway, you can see what this from the Mail Online says here. The study published says that masks may expose wearers to dangerous levels of toxic compounds linked to seizures and cancer. I didn't say it. Okay, I didn't say it. So there's that. And there's a YouTube channel called Hawaii Real Estate. This gentleman has been doing good work, actually. Doing good work on, he lives there on the island. And you should check out his channel. If you want to help people there, I've been checking this guy out for about a week now. And it seems like everything seems to be legitimate. You can watch these videos and decide for yourself. I'm going to tell you what to do. You can decide for yourself. But he's one of the only resources for getting actual information out of Maui, because there's a media blackout. The media is not allowed to go in there and do stories or report there. So he's got a Starlink connection, and he's been because the cellular has been out there too. I mean, they've really locked it down as far as information getting out there. But listen to this. By the way, this is over the weekend. More fires happened. And you remember what our theory was about all this is arson. It's arson. Someone is, and the purpose is eco-terrorism. Our last video last Thursday, we covered that.
Of this tragedy and the ongoing craziness known as Maui fires. Again, the fire started somewhere over here. It ends about where that fire truck is, roughly. So it started somewhere around this ditch. They just replaced all these power lines recently because many of these were down. I was riding my dirt bike here a few days ago. So I don't know if it's related to anything to do with power repair, but you can see the fire definitely is only on this side of the over on the right side of the road. Right now there's a bulldozer that's filling in the area where the fire probably originated, and I'm sure that's part of the fire, putting out the fire efforts. But you would think they'd have some kind of arson investigation happening right at the origination of the fire to see, is there an incendiary device, was there gasoline? But I believe that those D8s or whatever those Caterpillar yellow irons are, they're covering up whatever evidence there may be.
Yeah, so it looked like that dry conditions for sure, and a downed power line or a blown transformer might have been what caused the bad fires. But what caused the death was the lack of a response, the lack of warnings, and they turned off the water. We've covered that here already. I want to go much deeper into that here because it seems like everything is dangerous to talk about these days. So, check out Hawaii Real Estate on YouTube. Decide for yourself what you think. Okay, so, right, India is on the moon, and we believe that. But why is India in the news all of a sudden? Because it's not just the fact that they're on the moon. Here's this video again. You want to see this again?
The altitude is being brought down from 800 meters.
Right.
And we are nearing and approaching the lunar.
Now, let's obviously they're showing a render of what the spaceship looks like. I don't know. With all the skepticism about going back and forth to them, or just even being in space to begin with, why would they do this? You could just listen to someone do the report, right? Do the play-by-play. But for some reason, they've got to show you this mock-up version. Look, this doesn't help. This doesn't help the skeptical community at all. This doesn't help your case.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम लैंडर मॉड्यूल.
And just like that, we're on the moon. So Ben Davis at Cauldron Pool, he had a nice response. I thought I'd share this with you. Here's India on the moon and me doing a triple backflip. Right? Clown world, folks. It's a clown world. But why is India all over the news? Well, they are part of the BRICS block of nations, which is really an important part of our narrative right now. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The BRICS is an acronym for those nations. It's originally known as the BRIC before the inclusion of South Africa in 2010. These countries are all distinguished by their large, fast-growing economies and their significant influence on regional and global affairs. So that would be the official description of the BRICS nations. They're all developing or newly industrialized countries and are all members of the G20. They're known for cooperating in various sectors of their economy, militarily. Let's see. I guess in the major areas, political cooperation. They meet annually together to discuss political, economic, and cultural cooperation. They cooperate economically. They all have a little different economic structure, but they cooperate in various fields related to finance and development of their nations. They also have cultural exchanges among the member nations to foster understanding and friendship among their diverse populations. But now these nations now they're a strong player on the global scene, right? This is how the world looks like it's shaping up now, right? Instead of a one world order at the moment, it looks like what we're going to have for a while are blocks, big blocks, like here this BRICS block. These BRICS countries represent a significant portion of the world's population and economy. So you've got China, of course, and you've got India. That's about half of the world's population right there, or close to it. Their joint efforts and initiatives can have a great impact on what's going on in the world. They can influence a lot of things with that many people and that much economic clout. Militarily, they're strong because China's in there and Russia's in there. While they collaborate on many platforms, though, they're also characterized by their geopolitical, economic, and social differences. But why they're in the news today is because they are a counterweight to the Western global dominance. And of course, if you've been paying attention at all to what's happening in the news, the United States and the Western order is being demoted. It's being torn apart. Socially, culturally, economically, taken down. In fact, here is India's on the moon. How about that? So maybe this is why India's in the news today. Even this, right? Their track team is now elite.
How do I like this team? How about you?
Son, I'm glad you went that way because I thought there was going to be a big buzz through to the final, and then there will be.
It's a total surprise, but man, nobody had India qualifying this easily to the final. They are going to be in the final.
And Botswana is challenging Team Great Britain. It's close. The top three get the auto qualify. It's down to the lean. The United States wins over India. They go through.
Look at how happy they are.
We'll have a closer look at that third and final spot, but well done, India. Well done, the US. And who will get that third auto qualify?
So that's India's very first World Championship final in this event. They did not get out of the heats in Eugene, and they just missed making the final at the Tokyo Olympic Games. So congratulations to India.
Congratulations to India, right? So the story here is that the dollar is being taken out, right? And whether or not it's going to be central bank digital currencies or not, well, look at this. Check out how this, this story says, author Robert Kiyosaki warns that the dollar will die as BRICS nations eye gold-backed alternative. Now, other experts say that not so fast, that their gold-backed currency is going to be difficult to make happen. But here's that report. Gold-backed BRICS currency will be very hard to deliver on. The BRICS pivots from a digital currency to local currency. So this was an interesting one out from August the 25th from Ledger Insights. Now this is from crypto, from the crypto angle. People who are well-versed, understand, people who are in crypto are talking about this. BRICS pivots from digital currency to local currency. Non-BRICS countries follow. So this is kind of a counter narrative to the whole central bank digital currency narrative that you hear throughout the European Union, and it's been threatened here in the United States and Canada. So it's just interesting, right? All at once, India's on the moon. Their track stars are now elite, and the BRICS nations are tops. However, what's this? Indian spacecraft presumed lost after moon landing attempt. I'm being a little silly here. This is from 2019. I just thought maybe, but apparently they've tried it before. Folks, I don't think they're there. I don't think they went there. Just between you and me, I don't think they went there. All right, shocker. All right, that brings us to this topic here, Lockdown 2.0. Lockdowns are coming back, apparently. And it all has to do with this new variant who declares the Arius COVID strain a variant of interest as cases rise globally. So if the pandemic treaty, as it's known colloquially, if it's passed and the new international health regulations become kind of the law of the land or the reflexive law of the land, this would be one of those instances where the World Health Organization, through the international health regulations and their focus person that they would have in each country, they would take charge. Right? Because what's happened is, when you're a member nation of the World Health Organization, you're already locked into whatever they do. You're already in agreement with it. Right? Nobody's going to vote on the pandemic treaty. It's already decided. Whatever they do, we have to do because back in the 50s, was it Eisenhower, I think, that put us into this mess. And the only way to stop it is to withdraw from the WHO. There's no voting is going to happen. We have to just withdraw. And still it takes 2 years. Once you withdraw, it takes 2 years to fully be extricated from this mess. So anyway, a new variant, right? Isn't that convenient as we come down to just over a year before the elections? What is this thing?
COVID-19 infections and hospitalizations are on the rise, and health officials are pointing to a new variant, EG.5, also nicknamed Eris. So what do we know about it, and should we be worried? The World Health Organization classifies EG.5 as a variant of interest that should be carefully watched. Eris is a subvariant of the Omicron lineage that originally emerged in November 2021. But despite mutations that might make the variant more severe and contagious, the WHO says Eris currently does not seem to pose more of a threat to public health than other variants. As of the 8th of August, Eris has been found in more than 50 countries. That's according to the WHO. It is the most common and fastest growing COVID subvariant in the United States. According to the CDC, it's estimated to be responsible for around 17% of all current cases. Pfizer, Moderna and Novavax have all created new versions of their vaccines to target another Omicron sublineage, XBB.1.5, which
come on, whatever. Enough already. Gosh, right? Well, so... what did I just delete? So that's where we are. New variants, right? This is going to be happening over and over especially in the fall, or especially when there's an election or there's something like that coming up. We're going to see this happen. Well, but now there's lockdowns, right? There's the word on the street, or from the TSA agents anyway, is that new mask mandates and new lockdowns are coming. Well, according to Associated Press, those are all conspiracy theories. Well, let's go to the conspiracy theorist himself. Let's see what Alex says about this. Listen, Alex was right on point when it came to the Maui fires. He was on point there, right? Well, no need to go to space, lasers. All you got, when the conditions are that dry, you just need a big lighter and a motivated, one motivated young eco-terrorist, somebody like, remember? Somebody like these people who were standing out here in the streets, people we saw earlier in the show. Here's another angle on that. Where the ranger bust down the barricade that they had set up there. So one motivated person like this, activist, and a lighter, it's all you need really to get these things started. And these fires keep popping up all over the place. Again, watch Armor of Truth Live 255 for a full report on eco-terrorism. Let's listen to Greg Reese first. They'll give us a little more of a sober look at what's happening.
As most of us have feared, the lockdowns are coming back. Federal officials from the TSA and from the U.S. Border Patrol have contacted InfoWars and revealed that the Biden administration is now setting the stage for full COVID lockdowns. The whistleblowers told us that they will begin in mid-September with incremental restrictions such as masking TSA employees and then masking other government employees and then masking non-government workers and then masking everyone. Fires and floods are everywhere, and our billionaire ruling class are now being very open about their plans to lock us all down again in order to save humanity.
One thing that maybe surprised you most, something you learned the last year?
Well, I learned that people don't know as much as they think they know, but the biggest thing you learn is that the pandemic was bound to occur, and this isn't the worst one that's imaginable at all. Society has a terrible time preparing for things that are remote, but are possible, and will occur sooner or later. There'll be another pandemic. We know that. We know there's a nuclear, chemical, biological, and now cyber threat. And we know, it has, each one of those has terrible possibilities, and we do some things about it, but it's just not something that society seems particularly capable and fully coming to grips with.
Wow, sometimes you wonder, that's Warren Buffett, sometimes you wonder, does he even realize that there's a camera there? He doesn't care at all, does he? He just doesn't mind saying it at all. Well, I just think it's weird that the media is saying that this is a conspiracy theory. Why would that be a conspiracy? Well, let's listen to Alex. Let's drop in on Alex as let's see what he says.
Are you going to lay down the next lockdown? We have the intel. They're getting ready for one. We have the whistleblowers. We can stop them. The article's on Infowars.com exclusive. Biden and preparing to bring back full COVID restrictions rollout to begin mid-September unless we stop them. Just get it out to everybody. Exclusive. Biden administration preparing to bring back full COVID restrictions rollout to begin mid-September. They may change the plan. They may speed it up. They may back it off. They might cancel it. That's what I want. But this on my children is from federal whistleblowers. And they're going to do it. They were told it's going to happen. And here's how we're going to roll it out to the public. There's nothing more I want than to have Media Matters and Snopes in October take clips of this and edit it and say, look, Jones claimed lockdowns are coming. Jones claimed more masks are coming. Jones claimed, new vaccine for the new variant's coming. It didn't happen. Look, he's a liar. I will literally buy champagne. I don't ever buy expensive champagne. I'm not even a champagne drinker. I'll buy a $500 bottle of Dom Perignon on air and toast all of you if we're here in October and we back this off. I'll dance a little dance.
$500 bottle of Dom Perignon. That's what we'll do. Anyway, so there's Alex. What do you think? Tell us. Let us know in the chat over here right now. Do you think that it's really going to happen? Or do you think this is much ado about nothing? If you're watching this on replay, tell us in the comments what you think. Whether you think something's really coming, or is this a big nothing burger? Again, Associated Press says it's a conspiracy theory. Well, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is right out of Biden's mouth. This is from the crossing at Tahoe Valley, South Lake Tahoe, California, when Biden was he's on a permanent vacation. So he was just happened to be in Lake Tahoe. But he was. They were asking him some questions. They asked him, had he seen Donald Trump's mugshot? He laughed and said, he saw it. Saw it on television. He said, handsome guy, wonderful guy. That's all he said. Okay, and then right here, let me show you. I'm looking. This is a press release. This is from the White House. This is the president's remarks. Mr. President, can you say anything about the uptick of COVID cases and the new variant? The president said, yes, I can. As a matter of fact, I signed off this morning on a proposal we have to present to the Congress, a request for additional funding for a new jab. That's necessary. That works. And tentatively, not decided finally yet, tentatively, non-committal, it's recommended that it will likely be recommended that everybody get it, no matter whether they've gotten it before or not. So it's a conspiracy theory, right? Well, let's just watch him say it.
Mr. President, can you say anything about the uptick of COVID cases and the new variant?
Yes, I can. Matter of fact, I signed off this morning on a proposal we have to present to the Congress a request for additional funding for a new vaccine that is necessary, that works. And tentatively, not decided finally yet, tentatively it is recommended that, it would likely be recommended that everybody get it, no matter whether they got it before or not.
So tentatively it would be recommended that everybody get it. Not decided, make of that what you will, but that's out of the president's mouth himself. Now, I've recently read the book by this gentleman's book, Scott Atlas. He was... he's well known within the medical community, anyway, and he seems like a trustworthy guy. His book is straightforward. He was called in really as an outsider to be on the COVID task force. Not early, but after about 4 months. So that would be what? That would be March, April, May, June, July. So in the summer of 2020, he was called in, and his book is really interesting because it's just really an expose on the lack, the ineptitude, right? The lack of professional knowledge exhibited by Deborah Birx and Tony Fauci. Well, let's listen to a couple of his comments. Now, you're going to hear him repeat what we heard other people say. There will be a new pandemic, he'll say. He's saying that, again, obviously from the perspective of that's something that politicians are using now, or elites are using. Let's listen to a couple comments here.
There will be another pandemic. That is a certainty. Not only that, there will be other reasons to invoke health or danger as a cause for a potential lockdown. Hello and welcome to Off Script.
So there's that, right? There will be that, and he said it there, right? There will be another, and that's why they'll do it, because they want to lock people down. Now here he's going to make some comments about the lockdowns in 2020 and whether or not they were smart. Were they success or were they a failure?
And I said, oh, really? How often are you testing the nursing home workers? And she said, once a week. And I said, well,
I think it's interesting to jump in right there. What he's talking about there from his book, is Birx. She was really in charge of putting out recommendations to the states, what they should do during the pandemic to respond to all this. She was bringing in to the COVID task force, she was bringing in all the test numbers and all the cases numbers. And it's amazing, his book, how inept she was at just gathering data and understanding what the numbers meant. In other words, there was so many times that recommendations went out on data that was not accurate. It was false. But what he's saying right here about the testing, all the testing that went on in 2020, seems pretty clear that early in 2020 it was about getting as many tests as you could possibly, just test everybody as often as possible. Because if we test a lot of people, we're going to get a lot of cases. Doesn't matter if they're sick. Doesn't matter. And none of it. All it matters is that let's create data. It doesn't matter what's actually happening. But anyway, about the lockdowns.
That's not what you should be doing. You should be testing them 3 times a week, 5 times a week, 7 days a week. Because that's who's bringing the cases in. And by the way, when I was saying this, their policy was a failure. The lockdowners' policy, the lockdowns, were not only destroying the young people, and particularly the poor families, but they were also not protecting the people even in the nursing homes, which is a controlled environment. So I said, increase the testing in nursing homes. I said, get more tests where seniors are congregating that are non-residential facilities. They weren't doing that. I said, get more testing to historically black colleges and universities. Why? Because their faculty have higher risk profiles. So there were things they were neither protecting the elderly, nor because they weren't doing enough to protect the people who are high risk. They were also destroying younger people and shifting the burden of the disease in a totally unethical way to lower income people. Remember, in the United States, they deemed certain people essential workers. Who were the essential workers? The essential workers were the people working in the grocery stores, the people delivering the food, the people that were cleaning the hospital toilets, the people who were cleaning the floors in the medical facilities. These were the so-called essential workers. These were generally lower income people. Whereas the affluent class, what Martin Kulldorff, my friend, the epidemiologist at Harvard, often calls the laptop class, they were ordering food in using Amazon to deliver their goods, hiring people to work in the grocery stores and go shopping for them even. So this was a massive and immoral, unethical shift of burden of the disease to lower income families, single parent families. I mean, closing schools? Okay, where I live in Palo Alto, California, it's a super affluent community. Every other house has a PhD or an MD sitting in it. There's plenty of room to have your little micro school for your child. In a regular family, that's not the reality of the world. When you shut down schools and you lock down businesses, what do you think happens? Well,
you destroy the lower and middle classes. That is what lockdowns are for. It's for redistributing wealth. It's for snuffing out we the people. And that's it. That's it. So that's lockdown 2.0. That's something I'm not too worried about it because, at least I know where we live, not a lot of people buy it. We're very fortunate to live in a little bit of a bubble here. But, okay. Let's work our way out of this one, folks, and get out of here in a decent amount of time so we don't hold you over too long today. This little nugget on the way out, folks, Communist China is reportedly rewriting the Bible and calling Jesus a sinner. That's what they've done. Now, I've actually, it's very good. This article is from CBN. I put a link in the description under this video for that if you want to check out this article. And Todd Nettleton, who is the spokesman for the Voice of the Martyrs, VOM, a ministry that sends Bibles to China, real Bibles, actual Bibles. And they're a persecution watchdog serving Christians everywhere in the world, actually, told FaithWire about the Chinese government's ongoing efforts to reimagine the Bible. Remember, we heard Yuval Noah Harari say this recently, but he was saying that AI should rewrite it. Well, that's not what China did. They just went on their own tangent here. And Sean at Revealing Truth, someone we check in with quite often. I have a lot of respect for Sean. I think Sean lives in the Philippines. He works out of the Philippines, and he does a lot of good work on the NAR and Word Faith and just a lot of Christian heresy that's out there. He's got a good quick report on this. Let's check this out. Let's listen to Sean.
Rewriting the Bible and is portraying Jesus as a sinner. I'll leave a link below where you can listen to the discussion with the guy that works with Voice of the Martyrs and helps get Bibles to people in China. This apparently started in 2019 and was estimated to be a 10-year project to have this new translation support the Communist Party. In September 2020, a high school textbook had a revised version of John 8. This, of course, is the passage about the woman caught in the act of adultery and the crowd wanting blood. And Jesus...
By the way, by the way, that passage or that verse there, John chapter 8, the woman caught in adultery. This section of scripture is, if you have an if you have an ESV Bible, you can see that this is one of those what's called a textual variant. It's a section of scripture that may have been added by a scribe at some point. In other words, it's not found in the oldest, most reliable manuscript evidence. So I think it's interesting that it would be this one that they would focus in on, that they would use. Just wanted to throw that out there, but let's listen to what he says about that. What did they actually change the verse to?
It says, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." Of course, nobody could cast a stone, and they all went away. Jesus asked the woman where her accusers are, and she replies that there are no longer any. And then we see Jesus' mercy, saying that neither does he condemn her, and tells her to go and sin no more. Yet the new version has a much different...
All right, so before we hear the new version, the point of that passage, let's just make sure we understand where we come out of there. The point of that passage is that all have fallen short. That we're all sinners. By our nature, we're sinners by inheritance and by choice. And that Jesus didn't condemn her. That wasn't his mission at that time. Jesus' purpose in his first advent was to provide the path of salvation. Go and sin no more, he said. Right? He didn't tell her that it was okay what she had done. Go and sin no more. All right. But what if the communist Chinese changed this to? Check this out. This is really
and
scary.
Tells her to go and sin no more. Yet the new version has a much different ending and concludes saying, when everyone went out, Jesus stoned the woman himself and said, I am also a sinner. Now, other than trying to destroy the fact that Jesus was sinless and the only sacrifice for our sins, what other reason could they have for doing this? I mean, it doesn't suddenly make them want to be more communist, does it? All I know is that Satan has his wickedness everywhere these days, and we need to use our freedom to share the gospel while we still can. One Christian in China was sentenced to 7 years in prison and a $30,000 fine for selling religious publications not authorized by the government. We know that it's only a matter of time before it'll be like that everywhere. If you aren't an outgoing person, I encourage you to hand out gospel tracts. I have my own booklets I've made up and have translated into the Visayan language. They really focus on what it means to be born again, because in the Philippines, being born again isn't really understood.
And that's interesting. That's where his main ministry is in the Philippines. So there you go, communist Chinese. Jesus, after everyone went away, he stoned her himself, saying he's a sinner too. It's like they don't even understand. They have no idea what stoning is, right? When someone was stoned to death, right? It would be done by a group, and they were not rocks. They didn't throw rocks and irritate them. They threw stones and crushed their heads. That's what it was about. And that's something that happened to James the Just, the brother of Jesus, when he was thrown off the roof of the temple to the ground. He wasn't dead yet. And then they stoned him even more. And as he lay there dying, he still pleaded mercy for those who were killing him. So that's just a little bit shocking. In Idaho recently, Christians were compensated $300,000 for rights violations that they incurred. It says here, before March 2020, most Americans would think that monitoring church attendance, banning Easter services, and arresting hymn singers were practices reserved for Eastern-style totalitarianism. The Soviet Union persecuted Christians, and the Chinese have Muslim concentration camps, but Americans' freedom of worship is enshrined in the Bill of Rights. Free exercise of religion precedes all other liberties in the First Amendment. So, in Idaho, it says this wasn't, let's see here. That's most governments in the world followed similar guarantees never to interfere with the religious practice. Even in the 21st century, when the country in general had become increasingly secular, few could imagine that political leaders would launch a crusade against organized religion. But that's exactly what happened. As the COVID creed, we call it actually the COVID religion, COVIDism, safism, emerged as a national faith, the American tradition of religious pluralism withered away. Freedom of worship was replaced by widespread demands for conformity. It wasn't limited to the devoutly godless shores of Marin County or East Hampton. Christians in Idaho recently reached a $300,000 settlement with a local city after they were arrested for attending outdoor church services in September 2020. Christchurch pastor Ben Zorns organized the worship. Said we were just singing songs, he explained. Local police chief had no patience for the violation of Corona law. At some point you have to enforce, he told the press after arresting attendees at the psalm sing. So anyway, that's the gist of the story there. They were something, I mean, did you see that on CNN? No, I found that story from the Brownstone Institute. So this is this is safism, right? The idea is safism. Safety is not a virtue. And it's about, now, on one hand, we understand that what's happening here is they're using the fear as a way to control people. But the only reason that the governments or that the elites, if we want to use that term, the only reason that they're able to move people with fear is because people fear death. They are afraid to die. And fear death causes people to make irrational choices. We choose to travel by bus or car rather than an airplane because you think it's safer. But we don't think rationally about death. The truth is, traveling by car is way more deadly than flying. Fear of death has a stronghold over people in this world. Makes us do things that we wouldn't normally do if we were thinking clearly. Constantly washing our hands, sanitizing ourselves, covering our faces while walking nervously, alone on an empty sidewalk, seeking out experimental potions to prevent a disease that really hardly ever even causes any symptoms, harms even less. We know everything we need to know about our world and our existence in it to make good judgments on how to conduct ourselves reasonably regarding self-preservation anyway, and eventual death. And by the way, everyone, right, 1 out of 1, 100% of people are going to die. Life is a terminal illness and everyone is infected with it. God has final and decisive control over how and when we die. So what do we say to people who are fanatically, who when these things, if these things happen and when they do, new jabs, new potions come out, they'll line up around, just around the corner. They'll line up to get it. They'll cover themselves and they'll admonish everyone around them who's not doing it. And these people will worry themselves day and night. But how do we help people like that who are suffering from a perpetual fear of their own mortality? That is an opportunity for a Christian. That is a very ripe opportunity for us. We should take advantage of it. And you can tell people that, look, you're not at the mercy of your government. You're not at the mercy of Satan. And you're not at the mercy of nature. You're not at the mercy of those who are unvaccinated. You're not at the mercy of the pharmaceutical industry and their sacraments. And you're not at the mercy of evil in the world. And for our Christian brothers and sisters, you are eternally secure in God's all-powerful hands. You will not die 1 second before God has sovereignly decided. Your life and your birth and your death was sovereignly decided before the foundation of the earth. Read Ephesians 1. Ephesians 1 and 2. Now the unbeliever, those who are our mission field, desperately need to hear this message from us now. The world is in desperate need of Christians who fear God only. Don't fear man. That's a snare. That's dangerous when you begin to fear men, meaning people, leaders who have power. Don't fear the powerful. And don't fear their arbitrary policies. Don't fear their lockdowns. Don't let that get you down and start to feel anxious that it might happen. Don't fear their policies. Don't fear their treatments. Don't fear their scare tactics. Don't fear. The world is watching. The world is always watching. When you're a Christian, we have an opportunity now more than ever. I've said it many times. I think now we have maybe as good an opportunity, as ripe an opportunity as they had in the first century to evangelize. The world is watching. They're watching you, right? And they will want to know why you're different. Why are you so joyous in a time where so many other people are fearful? They're covered up. They have gloves on. They wear like big plastic masks around just to go buy sodas. So you have an opportunity to be different. You have an opportunity to stand out from the crowd. And not only that, it's the way it's not just how we go about responding to these lockdowns and mandates, but it's our attitude about things too. To be joyous when other people are in darkness. To be fearless. To be maskless. Right? And if you're maskless, make sure you're frownless. Right? As you openly inhale the aromas of the produce department down at the Piggly Wiggly. Do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. And then, ironically, after telling us to fear God, he tells us what he really means by that. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? And not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. But even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Picture your Father leaning over you, asleep in your crib, counting your hairs, which is no problem for him. Matthew 10:28-31, fear not, therefore you are of more value than many sparrows. So let's make sure, whatever happens, be fearless in your personal ministry for God. Jesus died to secure the truth that all things work together for good. Therefore, death cannot separate us from the love of Christ. Everything we need in life and death was bought by the blood of Jesus. To live is Christ, and to die is gain. Philippians 1:21. So seek the mind of Christ, and with this attitude, as we continue to live, Christ will be honored. And when our time to pass on to glory does arrive, once again, Christ will be glorified. He sends the theme here. It's about glorifying Christ. The only sure safety there is in all of creation is the surety we find wrapped in the hands of Jesus, wrapped in the hands of the Father. And that's what we see in the Gospel of John. Jesus describes it that way himself. We're wrapped in Jesus' hand, and that's wrapped in the Father's hand. You're not falling out of that. You are eternally secure there and there alone. Fear of death is called thanatophobia, from the Greek thanatos, which means death, and phobos, which means fear, panic, or terror. Really, it's the idea of those words, when we look back through the etymology of the words, it's a fear of disappearing, a fear of not being around anymore. And it can be extremely irrational. Religious leaders, scholars, authors, artists, and filmmakers plumb the depths of this fear often. And now, right, we see politicians, we see corrupt officials exploiting fear to get power. The fear of death is so common that there is a whole field of study called thanatology, which it's what they do is they examine people's reactions to death and dying. In a 2017 survey of American fears conducted by Chapman University, 20.3% of Americans said they are afraid or very afraid of dying. Almost as many Americans, 20%, fear public speaking. So this is something comedian Jerry Seinfeld said. He said, this means to the average person, if you go to a funeral, you're better off in the casket than doing the eulogy. That's how irrational, right, that people are about death. Or more irrational about public speaking, I guess, which is something I'm confronting right now. So men are less likely to fear death, or at least they're less likely to admit fearing death. It's possibly due to the fact that women are more likely to admit and discuss their fears. But men are also more likely to believe in dying for a cause or some kind of a purpose, which might contribute to this disparity among the sexes. There's fear of our general fears of death can be broken down into the fear of the pain and suffering of dying, the fear of the unknown, the fear of not existing, and of course, the greatest fear that is in every human heart. See this in Ecclesiastes. And that's fear of eternal punishment. It's similar to the fear of non-existence. This belief doesn't apply only to devout believers or religious or spiritual. Many people, regardless of their religion or their religious persuasion or lack of spiritual beliefs, many people fear that they will be punished for what they did. They know that there's some kind of justice that's going to come for what you do here on earth. Another one is the fear of losing control, because death remains something over which we have no control. Aside from suicide, we have no control over it. And that frightens a lot of people. Some people might attempt to exert some form of control over death, especially when we see now in the pandemic age, right? Where you might see people living in an extremely careful manner. They're fastidious about what they eat, about how clean they are, about where they go and what they touch. It's just to a point that's irrational. Extremely careful to avoid risks, or undergoing rigorous, frequent health checks, just constantly at the doctor. Maybe even an unhealthy preoccupation with avoiding illness and death, right? So it's irrational, because the worry, that is a kind of illness. That's far worse. And it's common today as a result of a massive campaign of fear that's come mostly from the media and world governments and organizations like the WHO. Brothers and sisters, safety is not a virtue. Life is a terminal condition, and we all have it. Death is the only guarantee you have in this life. To avoid all risk or to be preoccupied with safety, that is slavery. That's slavery to the world. Safety is not a virtue. You have to gain a proper understanding of who you are, why you're here, how did you get here, and where are you going? Only the Christian worldview answers all of these questions truthfully. And so a healthy understanding of death, holding the worldview that is true, causes us to make the most of our time here on earth and to not take our relationships for granted. George Bernard Shaw said, I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. For the harder I work, the more I live. Now, apply that attitude within the Christian worldview, and that is a formula for truly good works. So how do we go about it if new lockdowns and whatever happens, whatever? If there are risks involved to carrying the gospel to the world, then so be it. We're Christians. We're Christ's followers and his representatives here on the earth. We're to be salt and light, purifiers, protectors, and preservers of all we touch. As we reflect the light of Christ in the world, we reflect the truth of God's word and his will and his way. In fact, we are followers of the way, the only way, the one and only way to truth and eternal life. Many people think that that kind of statement is silly. It's presumptuous. How could you know? But that's until they find themselves in a situation where they're facing death. People are really quite arrogant until the moment they're the one facing their own mortality. Well, thank God for being merciful that the deathbed confession is possible, right? Per the thief on the cross. But don't you wait. Don't wait. And I think that most people fear death because they know there's some responsibility, that there is a judgment to come. As Romans 1 tells us, they attempt to ignore it and suppress this reality, but it's undeniable. We're all aware of it. So stay encouraged. This is our reminder as we go into the September. I think Friday is September 1st, maybe. As we go into September and these new things may or may not happen, stay encouraged and understand this is our opportunity. It's our reminder to stand firm on God's word. Now, I promised that I would get to this at the end. Neil deGrasse Tyson. For Joe, our brother Joe out there, he asked about this the other day. Neil deGrasse Tyson went off on some rant about transgenderism. Let's listen to it. And then I'm going to play you a response.
XXXY chromosomes are insufficient. Because when we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice.
I don't think it works that way.
Either the one you're assigned, the one you choose to be, whatever it is. Today, I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm a woman! Tomorrow, I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt.
Manhood.
Why do you care?
Doesn't make sense.
What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum?
Okay, let's take that. Let's just see that, take that to its logical conclusion. Neil deGrasse Tyson says, what business is it of yours? What anyone wants to think or feel like they are. What about the guy who feels like he loves children? What about the NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association? Does it apply there too? Does your worldview apply universally? Does it? I mean, does it? Is it? What business is it of yours to judge anybody for their desire, how they express themselves, or because that's what transgenderism is, right? It's the expression of what I feel. It's that expressive individualism, right? That whatever I feel like I am inside, I have a legal right to impose it on the world. Really? And we're supposed to accept that. Everyone should accept that. So we should accept the rapist and child molester because that's what they feel inside and they want to express it. Neil deGrasse Tyson's position is flawed. And I don't know, you would think he would know better. But that's what it looks like when the mind has been given over to depravity. Right? When the Spirit of God seems to have just withdrawn from a person and they don't make sense anymore. Here's Chloe Cole. She's a detransitioner. She fell into a terrible situation where she was indoctrinated by social media and went through with some of the some surgeries and some chemical hormone therapy. Let's listen to what she says in response to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
How about we stop confusing basic human biology with cosmetics? Like, what a weird jump. If I don't wear makeup most days. If I leave the house without makeup on, does that make me like 70% male?
Somewhere, I think I read that the United States was a land where we have the pursuit of happiness.
If it was only...
Right, is that true? Is it true? We have the pursuit of happiness? What does that mean, though? Does that mean the pursuit of happiness beyond the law? Right? If it makes the rapist happy to do rape, well, we should let him do it because it's the land of the pursuit of happiness. How ridiculous, right? Chloe Cole seems to be on to something here.
Truly about aesthetics. Nobody would care. It's my business because you're using 1950s gender stereotypes to justify an ideology that leads to the sterilization and mastectomies of 15-year-old girls who just don't fit in. Girls like me.
Suppose no matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male.
I wonder what his gender was when he recorded this. Like, he doesn't have a muscle shirt on, right? No spray tan, no falsies.
His gender was Jimmy Buffett in this particular clip.
It's probably like 50% male in this.
I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care?
Yeah.
What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum?
Because the only thing that you've established in this video is that men wear trousers and tank tops, but women, they wear lipstick and dresses. The idea that people can be percentages of either male or female just further reinforces the fact that biological sex is a binary. There's only two. There may only be two sexes, but there are an infinite number of personalities. I mean, it really doesn't take a degree in astrophysics to understand that.
Apparent.
That's well said. I don't think I can add anything to that. That's very well said. So for Joe Powell, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that we should have commented on when that was a fresh story. But well, what I want to leave you with today is, again, this quote from G.K. Chesterton: "A dead thing will just float along with the stream, but only a living thing can purposefully move against the stream." Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." So to really move against evil in the world, you have to be alive. You have to be filled with the life. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." That tells us what our purpose is here, right? That tells us when we're filled, when Christ is in us and we are in him, what our duty is. Chesterton also said this: "Progress should mean that we're always changing the world to fit the vision, not always changing the vision." Interestingly, too, God says, where there is no vision, that means there's no revelation of God and his word, the people are unrestrained. One of the translations says the people are loose. They'll believe and do anything. That's Proverbs 18, the first part of the verse. Proverbs 18b, the second part of the verse says, "But happy and blessed is he who keeps the law of God." That is the word of God. So without the word of God, people are loose. That means they just go their own way. They live without restraint, ultimately living in such a way that will lead to death, because to ignore God's way is to ignore the way of life. Romans 6:23. So what is the remedy to this lethal waywardness? It is Christ. Charles Spurgeon, Bill Muhlenberger wrote an article recently about Charles Spurgeon and the culture wars. And this is the idea of, should Christians really be involved? Should Christians be involved in the culture? Should Christians care about politics at all? Should we care about what's happening at our local town hall? Should we care about what's happening at the state level or the federal level? And I love this quote from Charles Spurgeon. He says, "We've had enough of clever men with no conscience. Let's now see what honest, God-fearing men will do." Yes, we have to be leaders. We must be leaders. Spurgeon said, "Put yourself on a candlestick or on a lampstand." What must that be? A candlestick is an appropriate exhibitor of the light, and each man should make an appropriate confession of his faith. The best way is prescribed in God's word. It is written, "He that believes and is baptized shall be saved." Take care that when you have faith, you declare it in an ordained manner. For he that with his heart believes and with his mouth makes confession of him shall be saved. O lamp, do not say, "I will shine, but I will lie upon the floor and do it." Right? I want to shine for Christ in the world, but I'm going to stay in my living room. I'm going to stay on the couch because it's safe here. We're not doing safe. We're doing right. Your place is on the lampstand, which is provided. Spurgeon says, "Dear Christian friend, join the church that you may be placed where you will be in order with the arrangements of the divine household. A lampstand should also be something which makes the lamp sufficiently visible. If you do not come out and exhibit your light willingly and cheerfully, it is very likely the master of the house will fetch you out. Providence will arrange that the light shall not be hidden." See what the Lord did for his church years ago. He allowed her to be persecuted into publicity. What a lampstand was found for Christianity in the martyrs. Public burnings of Christians by pagans and papists, and in all the other modes by which believers in Christ were forced into fame. When there was no printing press, when there were scanty opportunities of making the gospel public compared with those of today, the Lord caused his witnesses to stand before rulers and kings and there publish in the most public places the word of his salvation. Persecution built the lighthouse, and divine love set aloft the burning and shining of the light of the sacred truth of God. You may find that God will make such a candlestick for you. You shall be forced into testimony in your family by the opposition of those about you, unless you take other, happier methods. Are you catching on here? If you are, in fact, a Christian and you're not motivated to say something, to take your light out into the world, to make a difference there, that's when persecution comes, because you will be made famous for a different reason. We ought to be valiant for the truth of God and speak of it with all prudence and without limit. Spurgeon says, "I long for the day when the precepts of the Christian religion shall be the rule among all classes of men in all transactions." And he mentions politics as well. He said, "Often I hear it said, 'Do not bring religion into politics.' This is precisely where it ought to be brought and set there in the face of all men, right there on that candlestick. Confront the world with God's truth." He says, "I would have the cabinet and the members of parliament do the work of the nation as before the Lord, and I would have the nation, either in making war or peace, consider the matter by the light of righteousness." We are to deal with other nations about this or that upon the principles of the New Testament. I thank God that I have lived to see the attempt made in one or two instances, and I pray that the principle may become dominant and permanent. We have had enough of clever men without consciences. Let us now see what honest and God-fearing men will do. And that's strong. So let me leave you here with Philippians 4. I've kind of made a habit of this lately. Philippians 4. This comes from that. It's a paraphrase of Philippians 4 in a message to you to take with you today as a devotion today and every day. For whatever's going to happen, whatever's coming up, you have something that the world doesn't have. You have peace always. Doesn't matter what's happening in the world. Stand firm in the Lord and rejoice in the Lord always. Paul says it twice. He says, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say, rejoice. And here's our charge. Be gentle, gracious, unselfish, merciful, and patient with all. Do not be anxious about anything. Instead, be in prayer. Give thanks to God for salvation and the provisions of His common grace. It's through God's common grace that even those who hate Him can find happiness and peace, at least for a while. They have oxygen to breathe. Rain falls on their crops too. And if we can do this, if we can live this way, the supernatural peace of God and the peace of Christ will guard your heart and your mind. That means keep you peaceful and joyful. Finally, whatever is true, dignified, honorable, whatever is right and pure and commendable, whatever builds excellence, whatever brings peace, whatever is worthy of praise, keep your mind on these things. And the God of peace will be with you. And God will fill your needs too. If you learn to be content in all circumstances, learn to live humbly, to be self-sufficient. It's good to prep. It's good to be prepared. Learn to live satisfied. Learn to be satisfied when you have plenty. Learn to be satisfied when you're in lack. And in this, you'll discover the secret of life, which is no secret at all. It has been revealed to the world. It's revealed in the general revelation of the planet, of nature itself. The fact that anything exists, nature and the heavens, they declare the glory of God. And we have a special revelation in His Word that's been given to us. Knowing this and living this, and in God's Word it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, that doesn't mean I can do whatever I want to. It means that when I'm in Christ, I can do anything that God has called me to do, even if it requires me to suffer. And if we can live this way, with this mind, this is the mind of Christ. If we can live this way, then the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ will be with your spirit. And that's our prayer for you today. Thank you, my friends, for joining us today. Let me remind you, before we get out of here today, one more time, I have to make this. I want to make sure that you understand how much we need your help. We really need you to support us because we're trying to make sure that we're able to be here for you in 2024. So please take a moment to just like this video. If you're watching right now, just hit the thumbs up. It's free, it's easy, and it helps so much. Share the video. Leave a comment. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. It's free and it helps us. These are things you can do to really help us. And download this Armor of Truth mobile app. It's 100% free and you will get live notifications, direct links whenever and wherever we go live. Exclusive content, articles, reports, resources, and the Tracking Dystopia podcast and a regular Bible study podcast. If you can support Armor of Truth financially, every donation or gift makes a difference. Use the Armor of Truth mobile app give tab if you want to make it real easy on yourself, or visit our website, armoroftruth.net/donate, or follow the links in the description under this video. Set up a recurring monthly donation to help us plan for the future of AOT. That's a huge help. So, what are you waiting for? Download the Armor of Truth mobile app today. My name is Brad, and I'm typically joined here by my talented and precious wife, Summer. She's not with us on the show today, but she will be back with us next time. Together, we're Armor of Truth, and we're seeking a worldview revolution through God's revelation.
This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test.